A seismic shift in the Gaza conflict. Hamas has just announced its readiness to release all Israeli hostages, alive or dead, under President Trump's new peace proposal. In return, they want a complete Israeli withdrawal and a permanent end to the war. Trump, on his end, has called on Israel to stop the bombing and says Hamas is ready for lasting peace. The United Nations General Assembly is abuzz with emergency consultation and calls for an enforceable ceasefire. Meanwhile, reactions are pouring in from Riyadh to Islamabad, from Doha to Brussels. So tonight we break it all down. What exactly has Hamas agreed to? What remains to be negotiated? And how are the world's powers reacting? And most critically, are we finally seeing the dawn of peace or just the calm before another storm? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A seismic shift in the Gaza conflict. Hamas has just announced its readiness to release all Israeli hostages, alive or dead, under President Trump's new peace proposal. In return, they want a complete Israeli withdrawal and a permanent end to the war. Trump, on his end, has called on Israel to stop the bombing and says Hamas is ready for lasting peace. The United Nations General Assembly is abuzz with emergency consultation and calls for an enforceable ceasefire. Meanwhile, reactions are pouring in from Riyadh to Islamabad, from Doha to Brussels. So tonight we break it all down. What exactly has Hamas agreed to? What remains to be negotiated? And how are the world's powers reacting? And most critically, are we finally seeing the dawn of peace or just the calm before another storm? I'm your very own Fariha Farouk. Welcome to 360 Digital English. Segment 1. Hamas's declaration. This statement from Hamas marks the most consequential shift in its position since the war began. Quoting directly, "Within this framework and in order to achieve an end to the war and a complete withdrawal from the Strip, the movement declares its approval to release all occupation prisoners, both living and remains, according to the exchange formula included in President Trump's proposal." This means Hamas is ready to release all remaining Israeli captives, provided the exchange terms are honored, likely involving Palestinian detainees and security guarantees. They also added, and I quote, "The movement affirms its readiness to immediately enter through the mediators into negotiations to discuss the details." And in a major shift on governance, the quote, "The movement renews its approval to hand over the administration of Gaza Strip to a Palestinian body of independence, technocrats based on national consensus and backed by Arab and Islamic support." Well, that statement alone is historic. It signals Hamas's willingness to step back from direct power to allow a neutral Palestinian government supported by Arab and Islamic nations to take charge. Segment 2, Trump's reaction and US stance. Within hours, Donald Trump, who spearheaded the proposal through regional intermediaries, released a strong statement. He said, and I quote, "I believe Hamas is ready for lasting peace. I have told Israel to stop the bombing. Let's bring the hostages home and bring stability back to the Middle East." He publicly thanked Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia for their efforts and hinted at a regional security arrangement to maintain peace once Israel withdraws. Sources in Washington say the Trump peace proposal 2.0 includes full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, an international peacekeeping presence, and a GCC-led reconstruction fund with Saudi Arabia and the UAE expected to take leading roles. Segment 3, Global and GCC reactions. Well, across the Arab world, the announcement drew swift responses. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry called it a step in the right direction towards halting the aggression and restoring Arab stability. Qatar, acting as a chief mediator, said it is ready to facilitate detailed negotiations under the Trump framework to secure a lasting truce. The UAE termed it as an opportunity for the region to pivot from conflict to reconstruction, while Kuwait urged collective Arab diplomacy to ensure the promise of peace are not betrayed again. Within the GCC, the focus is clear: Arab unity, reconstruction, and preventing another humanitarian collapse in Gaza. Segment 4, Pakistan's position. Pakistan has welcomed Hamas's announcement and reaffirmed its support for a just and lasting peace based on the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces and the right of Palestinians to self-determination. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, in an official statement, said, and I quote, "This is a moment for the Muslim Ummah to act with unity and purpose. The suffering of Gaza must end and justice must prevail, not just as a truce." Pakistan's Foreign Office added that Islamabad is ready to support any UN or Arab Islamic framework that leads to a permanent and verifiable cessation of hostilities. Now, behind the scenes, Pakistan's diplomatic channels, especially with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, have been active in pushing for a collective Islamic response under the OIC umbrella. Analysts in Islamabad note that this may also be the first real opportunity for the GCC and Pakistan to synchronize policy, combining financial power with diplomatic credibility to reassert the Muslim world's collective silence after years of division. Segment 5, United Nations and European response. At the United Nations General Assembly, several nations have called for an emergency session to formalize the ceasefire under international law. A draft resolution backed by Malaysia, South Africa, Pakistan, and several Latin American states demand an immediate cessation of Israeli hostilities. The European Union's high representatives, meanwhile, welcomed Hamas's shift, saying, if both sides uphold this commitment, this could be the most meaningful opening for peace in 2 decades. France and Germany, though cautious, have expressed support for negotiations under US and UN oversight. Segment 6, Israel's position and on-ground reality. Now that is interesting. So what's happening on the ground? Despite Donald Trump's plea to stop the bombing, Israeli airstrikes continued overnight in Khan Yunis and Rafah, though the scale has decreased. Tel Aviv sources say Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet is divided, some urging engagement with Trump's plan, others demanding total elimination of Hamas. Israeli commentators are calling Hamas's offer a pressure tactics, but Western analysts see it as the first credible off-ramp since the war began. Segment 7, Netanyahu, what he is saying and what he's holding back. Now let's critically dissect Netanyahu's position. What is he saying? What is he doing? And what he is very carefully not saying? Well, what Netanyahu is saying or doing. Netanyahu has publicly stated that Israel is ready for immediate implementation of the first phase of Trump's Gaza peace plan. That sounds flexible, but in practice it's limited. He's talking about phase 1 only, which focuses on the hostage exchange, not a full ceasefire. In his recent press conference titled "No Chance of Ceasefire," Netanyahu said, and I quote, "It is time for all of us to decide if we are willing to fight for a future of hope and promise or surrender to tyranny and terror." He continues to frame the war as existential, using language like defending civilization, protecting the Jewish people from annihilation. At the UN General Assembly, his tone was defiant. He said, and I quote, "Lay down your arms. Let my people go. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down." Behind closed doors in meetings with hostage families, Netanyahu reportedly said, and I quote, "I am dealing with preventing the destruction of this country. Iran wants to wipe us out. We will not be led like sheep to the slaughter." And in an interview earlier this year, he stressed that military pressure is the only way to achieve both goals, releasing hostages and destroying Hamas. In essence, Netanyahu is engaging with the Trump proposal on his own terms, keeping Israel's security doctrine front and center. What Netanyahu is not saying / omitting. But what he is not saying speaks volumes. Netanyahu has not committed to a complete ceasefire or permanent halt to oppression. He has not clarified when or how the withdrawal phases would begin. He has not accepted that Gaza's governance could be fully handed over to a technocratic Palestinian body without Israeli oversight. And crucially, he has not agreed to any UN monitoring, war crime accountability, or international enforcement. His statements leave open strategic ambiguity, giving him the flexibility to pivot depending on domestic and military pressure. Analysts note that this is a two-track strategy. Publicly, he aligns with Trump to appear cooperative. Privately, he ensures Israel retains military initiative and political control. So while Trump calls the dawn of peace, Netanyahu seems to be preparing for managed containment, not full reconciliation. Segment 8, what happens next? Now the million-dollar question, what's next? Two paths lie ahead. Path 1, the road to peace. If negotiations hold, we could see a UN-supervised ceasefire, Gaza governed by a technocratic Palestinian council, Arab and GCC-led reconstruction, and a broader US-Arab understanding on regional security. Path 2, the breakdown. If Israel refuses the deal or attacks intensify, Hamas could withdraw its offer and other resistant fronts in Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, and may ignite regional instability. A senior UN official warned today. He said, and I quote, "The next 72 hours will decide if Gaza breathes or burns again." Coming to the conclusion, is this the beginning of peace or just another illusion before the next round of bloodshed? The world is watching from Washington to Riyadh, from Islamabad to Tel Aviv. One thing is clear, what happens now will define not just Gaza's fate, but the credibility of the entire international order. Do leave your comments and feedback. Keep watching. This is your very own Fariha Farouk signing off. This is 360 Digital English. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.